Hello, Bambaji here with another sun transit report, a weather report, if you like. On the 12th of March at around 1722, 1723, depending which software you look at, the sun moves out of gate 22 and it moves into gate 36. So you can see from the image of the body graph here, gate 22 is in this right triangle, it's white triangle to the right of the body graph, and it's this white channel here, or the white gate 22. So we have just done a little skip to the right into 36. So we are still in the solar plexus. This is still an emotional gate. And this is still part of manifesting world. It's half of a manifesting channel. So if you were to have the 35, then you would have the throat lit up, and this would give you the whole channel there. And that's a classic sort of manifesting channel. And so this is the energy that everybody has around them at the moment. This is not just an individual or personal thing. This is the whole planet is having this. So gate 36 is known as the gate of crisis, and it is also known as the darkening of the light. Now then, if you remember that we are in a duality, and so it's the gate of no crisis at all, everything's calm and fabulous, and a gate of the lightening of the dark. So you can play with these keynotes, and you don't have to get stuck in the sort of the dark treacle of how it sounds. Now, because of its name, this gate, the gate of crisis, it gets a bad reputation. And, very often you find that we all have our own ideas about what a name is or what a word means. And very often we decide as a collective that a certain word is not, we don't want to have anything to do with that, we have decided that the qualities associated with that word are not things that we want to have in our life. Crisis being one of these. Crisis is not often considered to be a good thing, and yet it can bring great transformation. Whether that is a good thing or not, well, that is often not apparent until long after the crisis has passed. I remember reading fairly recently, and also a teacher said to me once that we've got no idea the impact that certain things have. It's not in our gift to know. And so you have the life of Jesus, for example. We have no idea really what the impact is of this one person because not enough time has passed. And it's different through different stages of history. And so often we will take an event and we will just encapsulate it in a certain moment in time. And that's our view of it. That's our opinion of it. That's our experience of it. But actually, sometimes we need to just take a step back and be more, well, I don't know. Was that good? Was that bad? So there is a story that I would like to tell you. It's actually a Chinese fable, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time, there was a farmer, and this farmer had a son. The son helped him out on his farm, and they worked well together, and they had a good farm, very productive farm for what it was. They had one horse, so it was not a big farm, small. And one of the jobs of the son was to feed this horse in the evening. So one night he goes out and he feeds the horse. And they like this horse, they're fond of this horse because not only does it help them plough the land, it makes them easier to get into town, and they value this from the horse. But the son, he goes out and he feeds the horse this one night, and he's in a rush to get back in for some reason, and he leaves the gate open. And so in the night, the horse runs away. One of their neighbors hears about this escaped horse, and he says to the farmer, "Oh, you're so unlucky. You've lost your horse. That's really rough." And the farmer replies, "Maybe yes, maybe no." A few days later, the horse returns, bringing 3 other fine horses with it. The son watches them go into the paddock, and he closes the gate carefully behind them. securing all 4 horses. And as the neighbor rode out, he saw the horses and he said to the farmer, "Now surely you could admit that you're lucky to have so much fortune with your horse." And the farmer replies, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Now, one of these 3 horses was quite wild, very beautiful. And the son decided that he wanted to try and get on her and see if he could break her, ride her, make her part of the team that they used around the farm. The horse, however, had other ideas, and she threw the son as he was trying to get a saddle onto her. And in that fall, he broke his arm. The ever watchful neighbor, he saw the son walking around with his arm in plaster, and he said, "What a terrible misfortune to have your son's arm broken. You're so unlucky." And the farmer replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." A few days later, the army rode through town, government troops, conscripting all of the able-bodied young men in the area to serve in the army and go off to war. Now, a boy with a broken arm was of no use to them, and so they rode on, leaving him to stay with his father on the farm. The neighbor heard the news, and he ran to the farmer and exclaimed, "Surely now you can admit that your son's fall from that horse was a good thing. You are so lucky." And again, the farmer replies, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The gate 36 is part of the channel of transitoriness. And it tells us that change is the only constant. It's the only thing we can rely on. This, as I said, is an emotional gate. Emotions move in waves. You know, waves are always in motion. They're always changing. This gate is part of the human experiential way. Experience without expectation. This is the way to move forward and to progress. Now, progress and change are keynotes for the gate at the other end of this channel, gate 35. Now you can see how this flows so beautifully together. The other name for this channel, as well as the channel of transitoriness, it's called the Jack of all trades. And this is what links the solar plexus to the throat and gives us this manifesting channel. And it's an opportunity for the emotional center to express itself through the throat. All the energy in the body graph, it wants to get to the throat for expression. That's the holy grail. But maybe you don't have the 35 in your chart. And so sharing isn't consistent for you. Maybe you have to wait until there's another transit or until you're in aura with someone that carries these energies, and then maybe you can impact others with the strength of your emotions. Maybe you bring crisis to a situation that can then be shared through the throat with the 35. Something to remember about this is that it's just weather. Anything that happens in the solar plexus, in the emotional center, it's just weather, and it passes. That phrase, "this too will pass." It doesn't pass on our time frame. We don't know whose time frame it does pass on, but it's not ours. And so there's some patience is needed, and patience is a keynote for this whole abstract circuitry. Things happen in their own time. Now, experiences come to us in their own time. We process them according to whatever the wave is doing. We cannot control the wave. The wave moves through as the wave moves through. It's not up to us. It's just weather. So maybe we can hold it gently and allow it just to be what it is. Notice it, but don't make the mistake of thinking that it's a permanent situation. Everything passes, everything changes. And you might remember that there are fears associated with all the awareness centers. And here there can be a real vulnerability because there can be a sense of inexperience. Although this is the experiential way, because there's this constant change that's needed and boredom sets in really quickly. And so there's a new one needed and a new experience and a new experience, that sometimes the actual, I don't know, the lesson in it or the skill in it, there's no real mastery on this side of the body graph. Mastery belongs to the other side of the body graph. This is the hot, get it, go in, get it, move on, do the next thing, do the next thing. Whereas on the other side, the splenic side, the mirror to this, it's colder somehow, it's a kind of cooler and more, it's logical, it's more collected. So there's that vulnerability that inexperience can bring, because lots of experiences doesn't make you experienced. It just means you've had lots of experiences. So the gate of crisis can have a crisis because of this. And because it's emotional, it's also tied in maybe with sexuality. And so there can be a sense of not being experienced enough with your partner, or being perceived as not being experienced enough with your partner. And this can bring a nervousness or a fear that can express through your relationship. So fears can be very useful because they can be used to transform or resolve something. You know, the perspective can be changed a little bit. It could be seen as an experience of sorts when we meet the challenge of change. You know, when we grow through the resulting emotional crisis. When we think it's a bad thing, we don't want crisis, we avoid crisis, and yet crisis happens. Everything in the body graph is an expression of our humanity. They're things we express just because we're human, or we experience them just because we're human. They're here for us. So crisis is a natural part of being human. As we gain emotional clarity, which we can get over time when we've got anything going on in the solar plexus, you know, it needs the time for the wave to process. We can learn how to handle emotional crisis, especially ones that are created by others if we have an open solar plexus, because we know we can just get out of the aura. And then we'll know if it's ours, then it will stay with us. And if it's not ours, we get out of aura and it's like, wow, thank you. I'll take a breath now. I can move away from that. That's their crisis. You know, because those people who have got a defined solar plexus, you know, we throw out whatever it is that we're feeling, and people who are open, they absorb it, they amplify it. And in a way, they're our mirror. They're showing us this is what we're feeling. And we, whoa, this is what I'm feeling. Okay, I need to take a bit of responsibility for that. So if there's no gate 35 at the other end of the channel, so there's no proper outlet, if you like, or focused direction for the emotional energy that's present here, the experience can feel very personal, you know, but we can learn over time to patiently adapt to our constantly changing feelings. Because whether we are defined or open here, there is still that, you know, the wave still moves through. And if you are open, then you're not going to feel it as consistently or maybe as often as if you have a definition there. The feelings that we get through the solar plexus can be wonderfully stimulating. They can be scary as hell. It really, you know, it depends. It really depends whether we are trying to control it, because then that often doesn't end well. Or are we really just holding it gently and it's just weather and it will pass? Doesn't mean it's not going to be overwhelming. Some people have an idea that when you are being correct, you know, you're following your strategy and authority and you are showing up to be the best person you can, you're learning how to love yourself, all of that stuff. You have a decision, you process it correctly according to your inner authority, and the world still goes to shit in a handbag. And so, but I followed my strategy and authority. Woo. But there's no guarantee that you're going to have a great experience. What you'll have is the correct experience. And that is where things can get really interesting. As you just, again, holding it lightly, and you are letting it be whatever it is. You're not trying to force it into, well, I was correct, therefore I've got to have a good experience. Really? Why? Who says? No, it's I behaved correctly, therefore I will have an experience. And leave it, don't judge it. Doesn't have to be judged good or bad. So things unfold as they do, and everything passes. So again, the channel that this is part of, the jack of all trades, this the experiential gate that likes to move around a lot. It moves from one thing to the next thing. These are the people who invented the phrase, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. They get bored very quickly. They don't like to repeat things. This is, you could say it's a very yin gate, because if you look at the hexagram of it, there's quite a lot of broken lines, as well as the yang lines that are quite solid. And remember that yin is very creative. So there's a lot of creativity that comes with that experience. The 36 is grounded in gate 6, and gate 6 is the gate of friction and conflict. And these are more words that leave many people cold and turning away from it, especially if you've got solar plexus and you don't want confrontation or crisis even. But friction and conflict are part of the human way. And we can see it in the relationship of the sun and the earth here in this transit. It's showing us very clearly. Conflict and friction can lead to crisis, can fuel crisis, and crisis is part of the human experience. And it leads to new discoveries about what works and what doesn't work. And it's not something to be held onto. It's the jack of all trades, which lets things go and moves on to the next experience, eventually leading to change and to progress, those keynotes for the gate 35, which is the end of this stream. It's that natural ending. So it's all a dance, really. We may not know the steps, we may not know the music, and that's fine. The dance goes on regardless. You have any idea how much noise that bag makes? It's an experience I'm having. The dance goes on. Crisis comes, crisis goes. There may be conflict, maybe conflict. There may be some friction. So what? It's all an experience. It's all part of being human. And so on that whimsical note, I shall say goodbye, and I will see you again in a few days to explore the next gate in our transit journey. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.